Welcome to the Get Sculpted podcast. We're your hosts, Tiana,
Jordana,
and Marilyn.
This podcast is all about cutting through the noise and giving you the real deal on fat loss, muscle building, and what it really takes to build your 2.0 sculpted self, inside and out. Our motto is to work smarter, not harder. We'll break down science-based and actionable strategies to optimize your metabolism, ditch the diets, and create a sustainable, fit, and healthy lifestyle that actually works for you. So if you're ready to get stronger, not just skinnier, and embrace a body you love, hit that subscribe button and let's get sculpted. Welcome back to the Get Sculpted podcast. It is January, which means we know you got diets on your mind. So we got a great episode teed up for you today. We are going to talk about how to break up with crash diets and how to actually optimize your metabolism so you can stay lean for life. Because here's the thing, none of us think to ourselves, gosh, I would love to diet for the rest of my life. But that's what happens. And it sounds silly, but when you really think about it, if you're someone who's always tried 75 hard, keto, Dr. Bernstein, whatever you want to call it, a diet in a pretty dress disguised as something else, if it's only focused on the short term and not actually changing your long-term behavior, it is a quick fix. It is a diet. You're going to do a million of them and you're going to feel like a failure because you're not sticking to it in the long run. So I want to start by saying, don't do that this month because you're probably tempted.
Yeah.
And we don't want that to be a part of your life ever again. So I want to give you a consideration here. What would it take for you to become the type of person who sustains a lean, fit, and athletic body year round? Because this is what you want to reverse engineer. You don't want to ask, well, what's going to make me lose 10 pounds in the next month? Because that's not going to be what's going to keep you fit for life. So everybody wants to stay in shape, but most people are only looking at the short-sightedness and not how to actually optimize their metabolism. So we're going to talk about how to stay in shape, and we're going to talk about why 90% of diets fail. And so you can be someone who does not be a part of that statistic. So Jord, I want you to start us off by sharing why crash diets fail us.
All right. So crash diets fail, and I am the queen of crash diets in my earlier part of my life, having tried so many, which we've talked about before. And ultimately, you're trying to hack the process of doing the real work, right? That's why we do a crash diet. Fast, quick, what we think is easy, but ultimately sabotages us in the end. So the first step usually of a crash diet is setting super low calories. I'm just going to pick out of the air 1,200 since that seems to be one that so many women love to go with. But if you're eating 1,200 calories a day, it is essentially the number of calories that a toddler would be eating.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for failure. And that's ultimately what we're doing with a crash diet, is setting ourselves up for failure. We're focusing on how low can the calories go. We're focusing on how fast the scale can drop so that you can, be positively reinforced that you're making progress. And ultimately, you might hit the goal short term, but nothing will last. Why? Because you didn't take the long-term journey into account. It is hard to get fit, but it is easier to stay fit. And most women never get to the staying fit part because the way that they got fit in the first place was so restrictive and so difficult that they end up self-sabotaging themselves and go into this rebound because your hunger is insatiable, you're exhausted from maybe over-exercising, and you end up in this cycle all over again. So ultimately, what happens when you do these crash diets is you're creating metabolic damage. And I'm like almost super annoyed. I don't know about you guys, about how the fitness industry has tapped into metabolism being broken and, you have to fix your metabolism. And, the industry really playing on women's belief that they can break their metabolism. You can't break your metabolism. Can you slow it down? Sure. The less food you eat, the slower your metabolism will get because your metabolism is so smart. Our bodies are brilliant. They adapt to what we do or don't do. It's like you don't do it, you lose it. So if you eat too little, your body will down-regulate to adapt to the calories that you're taking in, to the activity that you're doing. And then as a result, you do have an impact on hormones. And if you're in perimenopause or menopause and beyond, this is where you start to see that belly fat coming in. This is where you start to experience more fatigue. And the journey to getting back into a healthier metabolism or an upregulated metabolism that's going to support you becomes a little bit more of an uphill battle. So have you guys seen this with your clients? I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. And I hear that all the time too, that I think my metabolism is broken and I'm, I just want to be like, it's not something that can break. So
no, it's down regulating. And that's a really important distinction. That's a normal part of the process.
That's right.
That's why people think they can't lose weight. And we'll talk about that. That's a whole story for another day, but it's your calorie intake. And people don't really realize how much your metabolism affects how many calories you put out.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you're just eating so little, so rapidly and like aggressively, your metabolism downregulates to adapt for that because it's like, wait, we're not really having any energy coming in, but it's not going to damage forever. It's just responding to this, what you're giving it.
And it'll respond differently when you start treating it differently.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like you said, the body is amazing. It's self-preservation, right? So that's what it does, right? It has to adapt.
Awesome. So how do we break the cycle and build a lean, strong body for life? I want to dive into that science-backed strategies to optimize your metabolism so you can keep the weight off for good this time. Mare, do you want to take us through how we can actually build more calorie-burning muscle?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is such a huge shift for so many women, understanding that muscle makes so much difference in everything that we do. Building muscle is going to completely change how you approach fat loss. And we tell our clients this all the time. It is the key to transforming your body, but it is also the key to actually approaching fat loss in a sustainable way. Mm-hmm. Muscle makes you look toned. We know that. But it is also metabolically active tissue, which means that you will be burning calories 24/7. So even when your body is resting, even when you're sleeping, the more muscle you have, the more calories your body will burn at rest. So this is why if someone wants sustainable fat loss, building muscle has to be the non-negotiable. Now, a lot of women, and I am guilty of this in my past life, they default to cardio when they're trying to lose weight. They do more and more and more, expecting more results. But those results don't come because what happens is cardio is going to burn calories during your workout, sure, but the muscle you build from strength training is going to help you burn those calories long after you've left the gym, right? It has a much longer lasting impact. So building muscle shapes your body in a way that cardio cannot do. So the way we get started, and this is for a lot of our clients too, especially ones that come to us and they're new to training, we focus on quality compound movements, exercises that are going to work multiple muscle groups. Mm-hmm. So think of squats, deadlifts, presses, rows. You get so much more bang for your buck with these exercises, with these lifts. We also teach our clients to practice what's called progressive overload. Okay. So this is a gradual increase of stress that you're placing on the body during exercise. So this can be increased weight that you're lifting. It could be an increase in repetitions, sets. It can also be a change in tempo, which is the speed with which you do the actual exercise, the movement. This gradual increase is going to challenge you. But like we talked about, our bodies adapt, right? So by doing this progressive overload allows your body to continue adapting to your training. And guess what? That is how you build muscle, right? Mm-hmm. So a big saying, we always say this, right? It's not just what you do, it's how you are doing it. So progressive overload, compound lifts, making sure your form is on point.
That's huge.
All of this, right? It's going to make your workouts way more effective. You're getting so much more out of it. And also, you're going to avoid injury. So that's a big thing that we work on in our Get Sculpted community. Form checks and, ensuring that your workouts are being performed effectively. It's not just kind of like a maybe thing. It's an absolute necessary thing.
Yeah, this is exactly where I see a lot of people go wrong. And I was just telling Brian, my husband, this yesterday, that people will be like, I'm doing all the right things. And it's like, I'm not seeing muscle being built. Well, it's really important to stress what you said, that it's not just the what, it's the how. So if someone has only done self-guided training, and they have not had ever a trainer or coach, you really don't know what you don't know. So there's a huge difference between using excellent form and heavy enough weight to stimulate muscle growth in a squat versus I'm doing an exercise class and we're doing like pulse squats with like 20 pounds.
Exactly.
So straight up, you got to make sure that this piece, we're making it very simplified here, but it's something that it's really going to come down to the skill level that you master over time.
and how to tie these first two together around crash dieting and building muscle. What I love what you said, Mare, is that you're going to be burning more calories at rest when you have more muscle. But what that actually means is your body also requires more calories.
That's what I was just going to say.
Right? And so that means you actually get to eat more and maintain the body that you're now building. And that's like the magic when women, oh my God, it's my favorite part when we are working with clients and we start to
increase calories.
Yes. And they're like, what? More food? Am I going to gain weight now? And it's like, no, you're not going to gain weight. And here's the why behind that. So it's pretty awesome.
And I think you hit on a really good point. And I think that's an important thing to stress as well, is that you cannot build muscle if you are constantly dieting. So we talked about those crash diets at the beginning. If you're constantly in a deep caloric deficit, your body is not going to have what it needs to grow. It's not going to have what it needs to repair that muscle tissue. So you have to eat to support the goals that you're having. So the big takeaway is, if you want to get toned, which we hear from so many women, if you want to stay lean, if you want to stop obsessing over every calorie, every piece of food you put in your mouth, you need to be strength training. You need to be building muscle, full stop.
And when people think I'm going to boost my metabolism with workouts, girl, that is BS. Like, you are boosting it with muscle, but it's not in the way you think.
That's right.
When it says a metabolism boosting workout, you're not going to do 20 minutes of HIIT and maybe your metabolism increases temporarily, but people look for like the master cleanse and all these short-term things. But increasing muscle is what you want to do, but it's not an instantaneous, like after this workout kind of process.
Exactly.
It's like a weeks and months and years kind of process.
And that's also why training with intention is so important. Having a strategic plan to take you through the process of progressive overload. It's how muscle's built. It's the only way.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to tie into that. I'm going to talk about the second component of increasing your metabolism. First, we have more muscle, but with that, we need more protein. So we want to prioritize protein. The metabolism boosting macro. That's really what it is. And first of all, I want to talk about why the heck us people who are into fitness are always talking about protein. And I want to also give a PSA that too much protein is not bad for you. It's nonsense. When people say you're going to harm your kidneys. First of all, if you have a kidney disease, speak to your doctor. If you do not have any health issues with your kidneys, you would need to eat such boatloads of protein. I don't even know how much, grams and grams per pound of your body weight. If you're eating a gram of protein per pound of body weight, we'll talk about that in a second and why that's important. It's only going to do you good. And here's why. Number one, the role of protein itself is that it helps with growth and repair. So that's important for building muscle. It's also important for when you're sick and you're injured, and you should not stop eating protein under any circumstances, because it's either going to build or maintain muscle. And it's also going to help you with fat loss, because protein, out of all the other nutrients, has a higher thermic effect of food, which means when we talk about metabolism, it takes your body the most energy to break protein down. So why would you not want to have protein take up most of your calories? When you want to lose body fat, if we're talking about just fat loss, you need to be in a calorie deficit. But if most of those calories are made of protein, or at least a third of them, then you're going to be burning more calories just from that protein compared with other things. So hopefully we have sold you on that. And also, it keeps you satiated. If you eat a whole bowl of popcorn, you're going to want more freaking popcorn right after. If you're going and having just pasta with no protein, there's nothing wrong with pasta, but you're going to want more and more pasta and carbs, and it just doesn't work out. So that's the why. Now let's come back to the amount of protein that you need. So generally about 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you have more body fat to lose, it could be like per pound of your goal body weight. That's a good amount to aim for. If you feel like, oh my God, that's crazy, that's insane and overwhelming, then number one, don't worry, because you're not always going to feel that way. If I don't even try, I will easily get like 160 grams above what I need to be getting a day. And that's because we want to zoom out and think about the eating patterns you're building, not just magic numbers that you get. This is what we help our clients do. It's like, well, how do we set up your day and your vacations and your lunches with your work so that you're always having the freaking protein on your mind? You're not going to go to a restaurant and be like, I'm just going to get pasta with no protein. That's just not who you are. You're like, where is the steak, the chicken, the shrimp? If you're not a vegetarian or vegan, then don't be having beans as protein, because it's not enough. That's a story for another day. So I'm going to give you some tips on how you can actually get that protein into your day. So number one, you need to be batch cooking. If you're not doing that, then what the heck are you doing with your life, girl? You're living on the fly. You're raiding the pantry and eating things that are not aligned with your goals. And in the pantry, there ain't no protein. There's crackers and cheese and whatever else in the fridge. Don't do that. You want to prep your protein so you can make meals with them. You don't need to eat the same thing every day. So I don't want to hear those kind of complaints. You can make yourself steak tacos, then you can make a bowl, a burrito one day. You can use your proteins in different ways, but point blank, you need to be cooking your lean meats, and you need to be doing that consistently every few days and switching those up and having those with every single meal. And then you also can add protein powder to supplement. There's nothing wrong with doing that because it's delicious and it's easy. And if you don't like protein powder, then don't have it, but maybe try one that's really, really good. We like PVL, and I'll leave that information in the show notes because those are our favorite protein that we like to get in. High protein snacks. So let's talk about snack time because people often are thinking snacks are bad or snacks only need to be high calorie and high fat and high carb stuff. And, when I think snack, I think chocolate, I think popcorn. Girls, what are some high protein snacks that you and our girls like to have?
I'm a big fan of turkey pepperettes. So those are easy to eat on the fly. I throw them in my purse. I also recently actually got into jerky. I was never actually think it was one of, I was going to say, I think it was you girls who influenced me there.
Costco.
But it's tasty. And again, for me, for snacks, I also like things that can double up as like something I can take on the go. So it's not just that they're high protein, they're also super convenient. So those are two of my favorites. What about you, Jord?
One of my favorites is like making a little charcuterie board that ends up being high protein. So it could have, some rolled up turkey. It could have some of the pepperettes. It could have a little bit of Greek yogurt mixed with like the soup mix to make a little dip.
Yes, French onion is good in there. Yep.
Yeah, French onion, and have a little veggies on the side. Maybe cut up a couple of cubes of cheese and put a couple crackers with it. And you got kind of all of your macros are hitting.
Like a Lunchables.
Yeah, a little high protein adult Lunchable. Yeah, that's one of my favorite go-tos, especially working at home. Or if you're on the go, you can kind of snack on it as you are on the road or as you are going in between meetings. So it's a great one of my faves.
I love Greek yogurt through and through. I'll have a Greek yogurt bowl every day. And it's funny because people say they're a creature of habit, and I've kind of become that way with that snack. That's like my go-to. And let me just rant for one more second. You know those little tiny yogurt cups? I swear, when people talk about almond moms, and I know certain people, I won't name them, but they'll have one little teeny pot of yogurt and be like, well, that'll do me till lunch. Girl, that's not doing nobody till nothing. You got to have a full tub of yogurt, and then you can mix it with some protein powder. It's delicious. And these are the kind of things that you pick up on. This is how you're going to change your eating patterns. Because all of a sudden, snack time is not just about like, Lay's chips and dip. It's like, okay, protein. My Greek yogurt, don't get it twisted. I'm still adding in nice things like berries and peanut butter and granola. Coconut. That's delicious. So the point blank takeaway here is that you need protein, and you need to have it in a way that is yummy and delicious, and you need to always have some on hand, and you need to always think back to protein. When you're at a restaurant, on vacation, when you're going to sleep at night, I want you to think about your chicken.
People are going to have chicken dreams tonight.
Yeah.
Chicken and salmon dreams.
Don't forget your protein. So the little quote I have here is that protein is not just a macro, it's a metabolism multiplier.
I love that.
Ooh, I love that.
All right, George, talk to us about calories. You touched on this earlier, but why do we want to keep calories high?
Okay, so we want to keep calories as high as possible because we want to keep ourselves satiated as possible. We know that when we're in a fat loss phase, it is going to come with some hunger. That is just a natural response to our body. Be like, oh, we're not eating enough. We're in a deficit. I'm hungry. Feed me more. And in order to manage that food noise or the hunger cues that you're experiencing when you're in a caloric deficit, you don't want to be eating that 1,200 calories because that's way too steep of a deficit. The risks of that are slowing our metabolism, increasing cravings. It's going to lead to like an energy deficit where you're just feeling totally burnt out. And instead, we want to coax the fat off with as much calories being taken in as possible. It's going to protect your metabolism. It's going to make sure that you're burning fat as effectively as possible. And when you're coming out of a deficit and into more of a maintenance or muscle building phase, that's going to give you the opportunity to then increase your calories in a more manageable way. You're not coming into like a huge caloric increase, which is then going to create a rebound effect. So that's why we want to keep calories as high as possible. And how to do this right, okay? We really want to focus and help you understand some of the tips and tricks if you're going to be attempting this first step on your own. So the first one is don't skip meals.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. We want to be building our plates with all of our macros. So protein, carbs, and fats. We want to have fiber in there with our veggies and fruits. And when you start to look at how you build your day with your meals and pulling out skipping meals, you're going to feel full, even if you're in a caloric deficit at first. That's one of the biggest comments we hear in the first 2 to 4 weeks from clients who have been skipping meals or doing fasting. And they're like, don't worry, I didn't overeat. I just skipped meals. And I'm like, well, that's not good.
That's not good.
No. And when they finally eat all of the food on their meal plan, they start to realize, wow, this is a lot of food. 1,800 calories might be their deficit still, their small deficit, but they've never really eaten that much food in quite a long time. So they're going to feel full at first.
Volume.
Yes.
In volume, exactly. So that's the first piece. When you stop skipping meals, you build your day around more balanced approach to food. You're going to be maintaining your blood sugars through the day. You're going to feel more satiated throughout the day. You're going to manage your energy through the day. And that's going to help you actually do the things you need to do.
I was just going to clarify for the listener about volume eating, if you don't know what we mean. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that, Jord?
Sure. What we mean is, if you were to go to McDonald's, let's say, and get a cheeseburger and fries, and maybe it's like, I don't know how much it is, like 900 calories, you're going to be hungry at least. You're going to be hungry.
For a Happy Meal, maybe.
Yeah. You're going to be hungry pretty quickly, right? Because your body is going to go through that food. The calories are very dense in there because the carbs are really high, the fats are really high, and there's not enough protein. When we're looking at high volume foods, these are higher fiber foods. These are foods where you get more volume, like actually more food for the same caloric amount. So taking that same 900 calories, you might actually spread that out amongst 2 or 2.5 meals to actually enjoy, maybe if it's breakfast, you're going to have like eggs with that. You're going to have turkey bacon. You're going to have a slice of toast or two. You're going to have some fruit on the side, maybe some nut butter. And then your next meal, you're going to have a chicken breast with, maybe a wrap and some veggies thrown in there and put some mustard on there. And like, you're still probably not at the 900 calories. So you get to eat more food. When you're eating more whole foods, you get more volume. And you're in still a fat loss phase. So this is what we mean about volume. It's kind of cool to see that happen because your clients at first think, oh, I'm so full. And then a month or two later, they're like, wait, I'm hungry now. How did that happen?
Because they're training harder and their metabolism's working better. Yep, it all ties in.
Exactly. The metabolism starts to get coaxed and we love that. So let's say you do need to cut calories further. We really take a gradual approach. So we set calories as high as possible, but then let's say the metabolism has a little bit more damage than we thought initially with a client. Then we'll have to take a little bit calorie cut. We do that gradually. I personally like to take, 100 calories at a time. Is that, the approach that you usually take too? Or do you take a different approach with your clients?
I'm similar to that as well, but at 100 to 150 calories. And then we let the body kind of
respond,
give us the feedback, right? We look for biofeedback, but that's the approach I take.
Absolutely. It totally depends. And I think that another thing too that we can touch on is like the compliance to the plan as well.
Yes, absolutely.
That's important.
I love that. That brings us to the third piece is tracking progress. So compliance to the plan. You need to know what you're eating, how much you're eating, and how accurate that is. So we don't want you tracking your food forever, but you do need to understand and build a new relationship with food where you can appreciate what it takes to eat what you need to eat to achieve the goals that you have. And so relearning that by, potentially weighing out your food or measuring food, tracking that to say, did I actually eat all the things that I needed to eat in a day? That is going to actually help you achieve your goals. Are you going to do that forever? No. We'll wean off that process eventually, but you need it at the beginning, especially to make sure that you're tracking properly. And so the big takeaway here is the goal is to lean out while giving your body the fuel it needs to thrive. So eating as much as possible so that you're losing efficiently, effectively, and maintaining all the proper functions in your body.
Absolutely.
Love it. Mare, talk to us about how we tie in the lifestyle related stuff, which is sleep. So you got an Oura ring.
Yes, I'll touch on that. I did. I got an Oura ring for my birthday. And actually, very coincidentally enough, this is one of the reasons I wanted it so badly was because I really wanted to learn more about my sleep. I personally do not think sleep gets enough credit when it comes to fitness and results.
Preach.
Right? We all know, you need to get like 7 to 8 hours, 7 to 9 hours. But it's actually, I think, one of the easiest things that slips when life gets busy, when we're stressed. And the truth is, it is just as important for your metabolism as things like your workouts and things like your nutrition that we've been talking about. There is a big metabolism sleep connection. Okay. So when you're not getting enough sleep, your hunger hormones actually get completely out of whack.
True.
Okay. So it means you're more likely to crave food. It's harder to control your appetite. And on top of that, poor sleep is also going to impact your body's ability to burn fat and repair muscles, which we already talked about is so important. We need that muscle. So if you're crushing your workouts, like let's say you're checking all the boxes, you're doing all the things, you're lifting heavy, you're eating the protein, you're doing all those things, but your sleep is garbage night after night after night, your results will be impacted.
And how heavy are you really lifting if you're sleeping really crappy? Because I'm willing to bet you think you're giving it your all, and that is your all, but you're not resting and recovering properly. All of a sudden you get proper sleep and you're like, damn, I was not pushing it the way I should.
You bring up a good point. I can speak to this personally, but I know a lot of clients will say this after we work with a client and we really like dial in all of these different pieces. I have had so many clients say to me, wow, I had no idea how crappy my sleep was or how I had no like nighttime routine, no sleep routine. And that's what I think everything we're talking about today, at the basis of it is creating an awareness, right? Like I was just thinking about that too when you were talking about tracking your food. It's data.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking like, oh, I have to track this, I have to do this, I have to get more sleep. It's like, think about what this is telling you about the quality of your life. And again, this goes so far beyond just the physical results you're going to have, which you are going to have. This is literally going to change your quality of life. When I started focusing on good quality sleep, I'm like a different person. My mood changed. My body responded differently. So that's kind of the flip side. Like, what does good quality sleep do? It regulates your cortisol levels. So that helps with mood, with stress management. It gives your body and your muscles a chance to recover. So that means better performance in the gym. It means more muscle building, and it helps you function at your best. So the question here is, okay, I know I need to get sleep. I know it has to be good quality sleep, but like, how do I set myself up for that? So we have a couple of kind of tips for that. The basics is what I call them now. First, set a consistent bedtime and wake up time. With the Oura Ring, I didn't realize that's one of the things it tells you to do. It actually tracks what time you're going to bed and what time you're waking up. And it's actually, I've only had it now for like a day, but it's already telling me like you need to get more consistent with your sleep time and your wake up. And this also goes for the weekends, because I know that the weekends can very much be different than your weekday routine, but it's so important to kind of establish those consistent bedtimes and consistent wake up times. It might sound boring, but it works.
I do want to add to this. This is where the self-limiting beliefs can come in. We did an episode about this, but when people say, I just can't wake up early on weekends, or I can't wake up early, or I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy now. And maybe you don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. on the weekend. But if you think I'm going to stay up late every single Friday and Saturday, how is that serving you?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, well, your 2.0 self, you're going to stay consistent. So it comes to shifting, like I'm doing this for my own benefit. And then you can become the type of person who wakes up and stacks wins on the weekend.
I love that.
And fun fact for those that are like, oh, I can run off of 6 hours of sleep, or I got such a huge to-do list, I can't possibly focus on sleep right now. You actually problem solve in your sleep.
Yes.
This is one of the coolest benefits that for me as like a very A-type personality of like get stuff done, go to bed when the to-do list is done. That was my old ways. When I learned that, I was like, oh, so sleep is productive. Okay, let's do this.
Exactly.
Better problem solving. And they actually say, and I don't know the stat, but they talk about how when you're problem solving during the day, let's say you get stuck on something, that, like you said, the sleep time is actually when your brain is still moving. It's still kind of solving that problem. So
yeah, it's generating solutions.
That's right. That's a great point. Okay, so now second thing, after we start with the basics, the consistent bedtime and wake up, you want to make a sleep-friendly environment. So ideally, your bedroom should be dark, cool, and I know this is going to hit a lot of people hard, but free of phones and tech. We know that a lot of you will scroll on your phone and you think that might be relaxing, but it's actually having the opposite effect. It's messing with your ability to wind down. It's impacting your sleep. I've heard everything. I use my phone as my alarm. I do this with my phone. There are alternatives. Go on Amazon. I actually old-fashioned went on Amazon and got myself an alarm clock
Yep, that's what we have.
Right. And,
I need to do that.
Again, self-limiting belief, make a change.
Exactly.
Right.
And I want to admit too that like there's always things you can optimize, right? Like there's always ways to get better and healthier. And for me personally, this is one thing I really got to work on because I go to bed on time,
Right.
but I might get in a little bit of a doom scroll before bed.
Right.
But I'm working on it.
Right. You're creating awareness and you're making a change. Another thing that I personally do that I find is really effective, I love to read before bed. Totally like my escape. It helps my brain kind of calm down. I find that I have like more imagination. Like I'm reading these books and I'm like so enthralled because I'm giving my brain a chance to do this different task. So I love that. I've had some clients who say they listen to like meditations before bed.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll do maybe like a 5-minute meditation, which helps them kind of get into sleep. So I'm excited because my goal, and I will report back, is to practice different things, different practices, and see if it impacts. I'm going to use my ring as my feedback.
I love that.
We'll see.
For me, the game changer was actually getting a sleep mask because while we have blackout blinds, there's still like gaps in them where the light shines through. And Joey really likes to watch a show before bed. And so I'll put my sleep mask on and kind of like zone out into my own space. And I find that just that full blackout really helps me sleep better.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, 100%. The more blackout, the better. And invest in those. And for the kids, I used to have ones that...
I was just going to say the kids.
The film, the window film.
Yeah.
Oh, and the kids too, 100%. The blackout is so important for your quality of sleep. Like I remember the last condo I lived in, the previous owner, like she had like the paperest thin blinds. And all I could think of was like, poor girl was not getting good quality sleep.
It's so true. And like anything, it's like, we create the awareness, we make the change, and then you see how things change. You see the impact that it makes and the improvement. So this brings us to the last thing that you can do to optimize your sleep is just be mindful what you're actually consuming close to bedtime, right? So sometimes things like caffeine or a heavy meal, they can impact your sleep quality. So just be mindful of that. But the big takeaway here is that sleep is one of the most underrated tools. I will go to bat on that one for a healthy metabolism, because if you're putting in the work all day, you don't want to let poor sleep undo everything that you've done. So prioritize your rest. Please, please, please. Your body, your metabolism, everything. We'll thank you for it.
And there's one more lifestyle thing I want to talk to you guys about how to optimize your metabolism. If you were to ask me, what's one thing I can do right now without counting calories, without even starting to exercise yet, that will have a huge impact on my body composition, my cognitive health, my physique, it is this. And you might not like it, but it's removing or reducing alcohol.
Yes.
And I will start by saying I was the biggest partier. So I don't want to hear anyone saying like, well, it's just not who I am. I don't not drink. Well, I drank a lot, not even often, but when I drank. Like everyone would say, just have one drink. And I'm like, what's the point of that? I want to get a buzz. Like I'm in it to win it. So that's why I don't drink anymore. But as a side note, I understand that it might be ingrained in your social life where you feel like you can't live without it, etc. But here's the reality. Here's how alcohol is going to affect your metabolism. Number one, it's empty calories.
Yeah.
Like doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you're just taking down calories that don't give you any nutrition. Okay. It is going to have a disruptive effect on every aspect of your fitness. You're not going to have a deep stage sleep and you're not going to feel rejuvenated, recovered. You are going to impair your recovery from your training. If you are training, it's going to affect muscle protein synthesis and it's going to impair your fat burning as well because alcohol is a toxin and your body's going to prioritize metabolizing that toxin. And then it's going to keep all the other calories you're consuming stored as fat. And it's just not doing you any favors for muscle building or fat loss. Now, let's talk about what you can do if you are someone who's a drinker, because the reality is you might not be ready or knowing how to just make such a big change when it's part of your lifestyle. Yeah. So number one, you need to go into every situation with a plan and an intention. Yes. Okay. And you want to start by something that feels manageable, not easy, but manageable. So this is one of my rules for clients with whether it's nutrition training or anything. It's not supposed to feel easy because the whole promise of you're not going to have to change your lifestyle. You will have to change your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is keeping you not in shape. Like if you're not in shape right now, you're going to have to change something. You just don't want to overhaul it.
Yes.
So it shouldn't feel easy, but it should be manageable. So right away, you're going into a party. You say, okay, I'm going to go into this holiday party. Normally, I'd be drinking all night at the open bar. I've been there. But I'm going to have water with every other drink, and I'm only going to have 3 or 4 drinks, whatever your reduction is for you. Okay. And then you can also test out things like mocktails or like, I love Diet Coke. I don't like mocktails. I don't know why. I'm like, it's a waste of calories in my opinion. I mean, I get it. Some people like it. Have it if you like it. I like Diet Coke and it's my treat. So also focus on, this is the most powerful thing that worked for me, because for me, when I was quitting drinking, I didn't not know what to do in a situation. Like, I know I could go to a party and not drink. Like, duh. Like, my thinking was like, I know I could order water. Like, who would have thought?
Right.
I'd get there and be like, I don't want to drink water. Water's not doing anything. So I always visualize myself at 7 a.m. the next day or 6 a.m. And I'd be like, because I am a morning person. That's the thing. I was someone who, if I'm dialed in, I'll wake up and journal and drink coffee and like be at it and work out and like be freaking owning the day and parenting my kids with as much patience as possible. But if I drink, I'm going to be dragged out of bed when they wake up. I'm going to have anxiety. I'm going to look bloated, puffy, probably have eaten things I shouldn't have, been thinking about things I was saying and being obnoxious and just feeling just blah. And then the whole day is wasted. The whole day. And then you're stacking L's. You're waking up with the day, stacking L's and feeling bad because you're like, I thought I was going to not drink and then I did. So that would be the number one tool that I would give you if you want to reduce your alcohol. Think about feeling great. And also, nobody cares that you're not drinking at the party. They don't care. They don't give 2 flying Fs about it. I'm telling you. And when you notice that you're talking to people and they're all slurring their words and repeating themselves and I'm sorry to say, but like looking sloppy and you're like, oh my God, thank God I'm going to drive home and I'm going to look like $1 million in all the photos. That is also motivating. So those are my tidbits for you. So remember that if you're looking for something magic, it might come down to just reducing alcohol. What are some things you guys would add to that? Or have you guys noticed these things coming up for your clients?
Well, I actually had a client that when she first came to me, it was really hard to implement a lot of changes. So we actually started first with reducing alcohol. And this was somebody who drank scotch almost every single night and went through a bottle of wine easily every single night, maybe more on the weekends. And so we implemented these 3 things specifically. So the first one was setting boundaries. And it was incredible that before we even implemented workouts and a full-on nutrition change, she lost almost 20 pounds just by changing her relationship with alcohol. And overall had lost almost over 50 pounds once we got to the nuts and bolts of the whole program. But it really became the game changer for her because she did become more clear. She did become more aware. It created the opportunity for her to have more energy, for her to get back into her garden, for her to start walking and riding her bike again. And then it allowed us the opportunity to, having stacked some of those wins and begun to make some progress, that she had lost enough weight to then start strength training and moving around more physically. So it can be the number one thing, like you said, if there's something you really can't make any other changes, and this one thing could be the gateway.
Game changer.
To you actually achieving everything else.
I have a client that I want to share about. So she was very consistent with her workouts, right? She was very consistent with her nutrition, but it was that piece. So she was already doing all the things, but she was finding that her progress was impacted because of the alcohol. The other thing that really plagued this client was, like you said, the social situations, that pressure that she felt. But what you just said, T, about how your perspective changed when you started thinking about, like, what do I want to feel like later tonight or tomorrow morning? That is what we focused on. We focused on how are you going to feel different? How is this going to add value to your life? And it was interesting because she recently went to a party and she said, there was a little bit of pressure. So we talked about setting the boundaries. We talked about what she could do with mocktails or just even if it was having something that looked like alcohol. And I said to her, like, it is no one's business. And you're right. Nobody should care. But some of us are maybe in family or friend circles where there is a bit more pressure. So we kind of came up with like a little mock for her so that way she could feel like she was taking part. But one of the things she came back to me with the next day, she messaged me and said, I have to tell you, number one, I feel so good this morning. And number two, she's like, I'm listening to my friends, family, et cetera, talk about how crappy they feel today. She's like, and I am so glad. The other thing she said was, I have never felt more present at a party, at an event. She was talking about how she remembered what she talked about. She remembered what other people said. And she was like, that's how I want to go into every single event, every single party, every single whatever I go to.
I love that.
I want to be there.
Oh my God.
That was a pretty cool.
Exactly. I can relate too, because I thought I couldn't do it until I did. And then I was like, nobody cares. Like, I remember when we went to Vegas even.
I was going to say, I remember that.
That was the first trip I'd taken. And Vegas, in the past, I thought, no way. I cannot not go to Vegas and not do the day club and the nightclub. Like, I got to just do it all. But number one, the environment I was with was, you guys. Yeah. It was people who aren't into that party lifestyle. Fitness focused. Exactly. That's the takeaway too. You surround yourself with people who get it and put yourself in environments for success and remember what it's like to wake up and enjoy life.
Absolutely. Good point.
Bring us home, T.
Absolutely. Let's sum up everything we talked about so you guys have your action steps and homework to work on. You're going to probably dive into at least one or two of these. So kind of think about your takeaway here. Okay. So let's talk about what the 5 steps are to optimize your metabolism that are not magic pills or 75 hard or any of that other BS. Okay. So number 1 is to build more muscle. You're going to build yourself some muscle, not today, not tomorrow, but over the next few months and years. And you're going to dedicate your routine around doing that and not just burning calories in one workout. Number 2 is you're going to prioritize protein all the time. Remember, we're thinking about it when we go to sleep, but seriously, every meal and every snack, every event, you're thinking of protein all the time. Number 3 is you're going to keep your calories as high as possible. If you are 200 pounds, why are you eating 1,200 calories? Maybe if you're like 100 pounds, but chances are you have a little more body fat to lose. You need to be in a modest deficit.
Eating more than that.
Much more than that. Exactly. So coax the fat off, not starve the fat off. And number 4 is we want to optimize your environment for high quality sleep. Prioritize it. It's not a luxury. Sleep is not a luxury. It's a must. It's a foundational part of your health and you need to treat it like that. And you need to put yourself in the driver's seat of optimizing your sleep. And number 5 is to remove or at least reduce your alcohol consumption. It's going to help with numbers 1 through 4. So this is important, guys, because obviously you guys might be doing dry January, but a lot of people are falling off the wagon. And again, just a reminder that we want to keep the momentum going. And actually, speaking of where we're at in terms of the year, in terms of this month, January is also the month when people call it Blue January because people tend to get depressed and they have seasonal depression slip in right now. And we want to talk about how we can combat some of that low mood. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode. But before we do that, we have an ask, which is that you take a moment, if you enjoyed this episode and got some value, share it on your socials. We love to see it. Tag us. Our tags are in the show notes. And give us a review if you feel inclined to do so. If you feel we're deserving, give us that 5-star review, because when you do that, more women are going to find this show and then they are going to live happy and healthy lives, just like you will, hopefully. So we thank you and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Get Sculpted. We hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step in your fitness journey. Remember, building your 2.0 body is a unique journey for you. It's about showing up for yourself consistently and not being perfect.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review and tag us on social at getsculpted.ca. Your feedback helps us reach more women like you who are ready to cut through the noise and make lasting changes.
For more daily tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram and check out our handles in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Get Sculpted. Until then, remember this. Getting sculpted isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter.